Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Trams in Europe series. Today we are in Odense and we will be looking at the Letbane network in Odense, which is Denmark's third biggest city. This is one of the newest light rail systems to be operational in the world, having only opened this year on the 28th of May 2022, making it only 3 months old by the time this video will be released. Or actually, it could actually be exactly 3 months, because the 28th is a... no. Yes, exactly 3 months. There you go. So, basically, as was the case with the previous video where we focused on Aarhus, which is the second biggest city in Denmark, in this video we'll be looking at the history, the fleet, the lines of the Odense network, and then finally just some fun facts, and then the future of the Odense Letbane. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the Odense Letbane is 14.5 kilometers long and currently runs from Tarup Center to Hjalse. This, as you can see, this line is not very direct. Instead, it kind of does a bit of a semicircle without the line there to get around, serving the center along the way, as well as other various amenities such as universities, hospitals, IKEA, so shops, cinemas, and then the central train station, although a second station is also served. Currently, there are no line numbers, and as you would have noticed here, it just says the destination, i.e. since there's only one line, they haven't bothered naming them, so it just says Tarup Center, which is the terminus of one end. So here's just a little brief information about the light rail in Odense. As you can see here, everyone's from Tarup Center to Hjalse, as we already said. There are 24 stations, and yeah, that's really it. A little fun fact about the Odense light rail network is, so first of all, it is operated by Stadler Variobahn, which is the same fleet that are operated in the Aarhus Letbane, also in the London tramway system. But each tram, so each of the 16 Stadler Variobahns that are in operation in Odense, has their own name. So we were on number 8, so as you saw there, if you see here, it says 081. This is the one we were on. So we were on the tram called the Adventure. So each tram name, so this is translated from Danish, hence the translations are not always exact, but each tram name basically is has a poem and graphical illustration that is linked to it, so although you can read more into that if you so wish. Yeah, so there's just some more context. So yeah, this is just a way, I guess, something they've added in there. Here's just a little overview of the whole network. So as we've said, some of this stuff has already been mentioned. In fact, most of it's been mentioned. The whole journey time from one end to the other is 42 minutes. So it's not a very long line, but it's not a very short one as well. The capacity is 200 passengers. And it generally carries 35,000 people every day during the week, i.e. a weekday. And it's expected to carry about 10 to 11 million people per year. Again, this is a relatively new line, so a lot of it's forecasted data. And then here's just a little timeline of the Odense Lightrail network. So basically, it talks about this began in 2011, where when it comes to the H model. The H model again is translated from Danish, but essentially this is the idea of having two lines that kind of intersect in a way that forms a H, I would presume. But basically, they would divide into stage 1 and stage 2. So stage 1, as you would assume, is between Hjalse and Tarup. So that's been constructed, and stage 2 will be done in the future. A bit more about that in a few minutes. So we'll come back to the timeline. But before we do that, I thought we'd just take a look at some of the termini. So basically, this is here the... No, this is not Tarup Center. So this here is actually the Hjalse terminus. It's showing Tarup Center because it's ready to go back around. But yeah, this is the Hjalse terminus. So this is one end. The Hjalse terminus is beside a train station. You'll probably see that in one of the other photos. The other end, we have the Tarup Center's terminus, which is essentially just a shopping center. And here you can see the terminus again. It uses switchover tracks because these are pendle trams, so they have drawing cabins on both sides. This again is the Hjalse terminus from a different angle. The train station is there just to the right. This is the interior of the Stadler Variobahn. As you can see, it's slightly different from the ones they use in the Aarhus, although it's a very similar spec. They also come with a little cables that you can connect them with. So like, they don't have USB charging ports, but they have like plug charging points. And then, as you can see here, you can see now more clearly that in the KLC there's a train station in the background. So again, the light rail connections to trains. Okay, now back to the timeline. So I've kind of showed you there basically some pictures of the system. But basically, phase 2 includes extending the system to Mos Sedan and from Vesper to Odense. So this goes from Vesper yet. There's 2 options there to go to Vesper or Odense. They haven't decided quite yet. There's an investigation report started in 2015, 2016. So, you know, doing studies for the phase 2. And then in 2019, 50 million Danish kroner was allocated for an feasibility and EIA study. And in 2019, basically the Odense City Council is starting to, you know, look at these feasibility studies, that sort of thing. And then, as you can see here, there's basically still in the preliminary stage, 2020. There's a hearing on stage 2, 2022. The public stage consultations begin on stage 2. So as you know, this is a long drawn out process. There's various hoops to get along. Once there's public consultation, there's kind of final reports, final drafts, and then there's, you know, launching the railway orders and all that kind of stuff, and then construction can begin. So basically here is a map of what stage 2 will envisage. So stage 2 will run along these areas here, as you can see, and then you can see here how the kind of H thing is formed. So here's a bit of some facts about stage 2, some of which I already mentioned. But yeah, as you can see, the one might go to Odense, that's not quite yet decided. And one thing, actually, if you ever ride the Odense Letbane, you will notice that actually, now unfortunately I didn't get a picture myself, so to basically just take it off Google Maps. There are actually switches already put in place whenever they extend stage 2. So as you can see, they are ready, and phase this, I guess, puts a bit more confidence that phase 2 will be implemented. But basically, as you can see here, this is near the this is at the Korsnäs station. But basically, this is also the case at Sedan Sud, where basically they have the switchovers already built, so that way it's not going to interfere. The reason they've done this is most likely so it doesn't interfere with the Letbane, because obviously when they're doing the extensions, if they have to add in the switch points later, then they have to partially close the line. So this way that doesn't have to be the case, and they're ready for that. So that is, I would assume, the reason they've done that. And then basically the main proposal of phase 2 is an addition of 9.2 kilometers, of which only 4.9 are new rails, and then 10 new stations altogether. As you can see, there are the switches. Sorry, I wasn't actually at Sedan Sud, but actually from at Vesper station. So from Korsnäs station here, it continues to Sedan Sud, and from the other part Vesper station, presumably to Odense Zoo. So these are there's been pros and cons of pros, but I think it is to implement both. So as you can see here, there are this is where this is. So this is at Korsnäs here. Now we go further up, and then there's Odense Zoo, and there is Sedan Sud, which is Sedan South. Although that's this way, but anyway, we're presumably Sedan North up there. And folks, that's kind of brings us to an end to the commentary part of this section, and hopefully this has given you a little insight into the whole Odense Letbane network. And now, unfortunately, since I was in Odense for only about 3 hours, it literally just entailed me getting off Odense train station and taking the tram up to the terminus, back around and back around. It was about 2 or 3 hours, and I had to get back because it was just an intermediary stop. That basically means that I only managed to get about 1 minute of footage, a bit less than a minute of footage, but hopefully that will do and still give you some sort of impression of the Odense Letbane, which is one of the newest light rail networks in the world. So yeah,